there's a very good chance that your favorite Disney song was written by a gay man. And in fact, there's an even better chance that your favorite Disney song was written by a out and proud gay man who lived and died with HIV during the height of the HIV epidemic, and that Disney supported wholeheartedly during this experience. Let's talk about it. So, if you're a Disney fan or just a general pop culture fan, there's a good chance that you already know about Elton John and his role in The Lion King, but if not, he wrote all of your favorite songs from that movie. We're talking Circle of Life, Hakuna Matata, Just Can't Wait to Be King, and Can You Feel the Love Tonight? And if you somehow missed the memo, Elton John, very gay. But the even more important and influential person is Howard Ashman, who is behind all of the songs that you know of as the Disney Renaissance. So if you grew up in the 90s, or maybe even into the early 2000s, all of the songs that you probably watched over and over and over again on your VHS or DVD player were written by Howard Ashman, who was not only gay, but he had HIV, which progressed into AIDS in the midst of his time working for the Disney studios. And he decided to tell Disney about it. And not only did they support him and continue to work with him, they actually set up a studio where Howard Ashman was receiving his treatments so that he could work easily from home and get access to his treatments without having to travel, without having to be away from his care and comforts of home while he essentially was dying. He wrote all of the lyrics for Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, and Beauty and the Beast. So all of those Disney Renaissance music that you're enjoying now through the live action Little Mermaid, through every version of Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin on Broadway, in the remake, in the original movie. So just to be really clear and list these out, he is responsible for Arabian Nights, Be Our Guest, Beauty and the Beast, Belle, Friend Like Me, Gaston, Kiss the Girl, the mob song. That's the song where Gaston leads the angry mob with their torches to go try and kill the beast. The Part of Your World, Les Poissons, Poor Unfortunate Souls, Prince Ali, Something There, Under the Sea, and a very interesting fact, he also wrote Proud of Your Boy from Aladdin, which you might not know from the film, but it is in the Broadway version. It got cut from the film. But the Proud Boys, like the hate group that, attacked the Capitol, and we're not going to get into all of that, but they named themselves after this Aladdin song that was written by a gay man who died of AIDS. So that's interesting. So, yeah, all of these songs that everyone loves that, are probably some of the first songs that come to mind if you ask a person to name a Disney song, a Disney character, to quote a Disney movie. Some of the top selling, most successful Disney franchises in history were created by a gay man. Furthermore, so when Howard did pass away, if you're not familiar with the AIDS quilt, it was this activist attempt to really show the impact of the lack of research and we've just been dealing with the COVID pandemic, and compared to the efforts that were put in to make a vaccine and educate people, at least earlier on in the pandemic, that wasn't happening at all at the time because it was just seen as a gay disease and something that was deserved, essentially, which is horrific. I mean, can you imagine, like, thinking that an entire group of people just deserves to get sick and die? Actually, you know what, I can, because the elderly and the disabled folks in the pandemic, that is happening too. But that's a topic for another day. It's Pride Month, and we're focusing on Disney's legacy. So Howard Ashman had actually come from working on Broadway, and that was something that really influenced the entire reason for the Disney Renaissance. They retooled all of their, if you compare the things that were going on during the Disney Renaissance to the movies in the immediate prior period, you will notice that things get a lot more Broadway-ified, and that was a key part of their huge success. We have Howard Ashman to thank for that. So, I mean, it's possible without this gay man who died of AIDS, Disney might not be around today. The studio was about to shut down. So I totally digress. Heading back to the AIDS quilt story. So the AIDS quilt was an activist attempt to show the real human impact of the disease and the lack of research and funding that was going into finding a treatment or a cure. So one thing that people did was they displayed this massive quilt on the lawn in Washington, D.C. And as part of this effort, they would ask the family members or friends of people who had died from AIDS to make them there was like a standardized measurement for this piece of fabric that you would use and decorate to represent that person in their life. And then this quilt still exists, and it has traveled around the world to all sorts of museums. I actually got to see Howard Ashman's quilt piece at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. during one of their Pride Month displays. I'll have to find a picture and post it. It was a few years ago. But it's really beautiful. It actually has the Beauty and the Beast on it and some lyrics from that movie. And one of the things that is really interesting about Ashman and his role with Disney is that he was able to use his art to channel and process a lot of the emotions that he was dealing with during the time. So when you think about some of the songs like Part of Your World, Poor Unfortunate Souls, the Mob song especially, that feels very relevant right now as we're dealing with DeSantis and his war on women, trans, and LGBT people, pretty much everybody in the state of Florida at this point. You can really see and feel that representation and experience of a marginalized person who feels like they cannot be themselves, cannot be accepted by society for who they are. And if you want to learn more about Howard Ashman, which I highly recommend because, like I said, without him and his influence, the Disney Studios, when Little Mermaid was starting to be produced, was actually on the verge of shutting down. There was no animation staff. The actress who I'm completely blanking on right now, which is terrible, but the actress who voiced Ariel was actually quoted as saying that in an interview, that they weren't sure they were going to actually be able, they didn't actually have the animation staff on board, so they were working on recording the music anyway, but they were on the verge of shutting down, and these movies saved them. So there is a documentary on Disney Plus called Howard that is about his influence in Disney. It's amazing. Highly recommend you watch it. It's a great way to learn about Disney history, Disney Renaissance, and celebrate the life and influence of this amazing man. So, to recap, if you love the Disney Renaissance, if you love Disney 90s music, everything from Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, sorry y'all, I'm struggling with words today, The Little Mermaid, and The Lion King were all gay men behind those songs.